Welcome to Create Great. This podcast series features conversations with creative people from different backgrounds, from different disciplines, and different schools of thought. Thank you for choosing to listen. This podcast is hosted by me, David Bennett, Creative Director of OPX Studio and Curator of Visuelle, an online showcase. The best creatives will always strive to create something great, and I wanted to explore how they go about this, what it means to them, their clients, and what it means to our wider society too. My guests are individuals whose work I've admired and often featured over the years on Visuelle, but I wanted to create this podcast to get to know the real people behind their creative work. I'll be asking questions about their own unique stories of how they got to where they are now, how much of it was perseverance and determination, or how much of it was just plain luck, and how do they go about creating something great. This is a chance to explore what drives these talented individuals or their studios to create great. My guest joining me today on the 5th episode of Create Great is graphic artist Anthony Burrill. Anthony combines a knack for simplicity that packs a punch with analog craft skills and powerful positive messages. Hi Anthony, good seeing you again.
Hello.
How's it been?
Yeah, good. Yeah. I was quite keen to kind of do this in person because it's, I think it's nicer, isn't it, to kind of actually see the other person in real life.
I know, it's been interesting. We've been doing these mainly through the digital TV, as it were, the internet, but this is a bit more intimate. So let's see how we go. And I think that's the whole point of the podcast, really, just to be a bit more intimate with it.
Definitely.
So hopefully you've heard some of them. If you haven't, please do, because you hear yourself on it. But basically what I like to do is really jump back into the beginning, because obviously you've established yourself as a graphic artist, which is brilliant, but it'd be interesting just to see how you got there, your road, your journey into graphic design, as it were.
Well, I've kind of been thinking about this a lot forever really, about what was like the real nugget that really got me into doing this. And I think it's probably just chasing the glamour of it.
Right.
Kind of like I grew up in Oldham, kind of northeast Manchester, and my dad was a car mechanic, my mum was a dinner lady at my school. And it was so I came from fairly regular kind of background. I did a lot of travelling with my grandfather when I was young. So we went to, after he retired, he wanted to travel. So I was his little travelling companion.
Nice.
So we went all over the place, kind of Italy and Greece and Turkey, Russia, China. Wow. And this is kind of like early 80s. So it kind of really, those experiences really broadened my mind, and it was like, there's all this stuff out there that is fascinating. Mm-hmm. I was picking up everything really. I was like, we were in these kind of tour groups, and the average age, they were all like retirees. So I was this like little lad. I was the kind of mascot really. So I was always kind of pushed to the front when, if we were in a museum or a gallery, I'd be at the front soaking all this information in. And I think all that stuff was kind of fairly formative for me. Mm-hmm. And then so I'd kind of come back from these trips and give little talks to my friends at school, like show them the things that I'd picked up and the places I'd been.
Yeah.
And I think just that sort of desire to go and see things, experience things, document them, and then communicate them afterwards was kind of, from those experiences, that was kind of hardwired into me, really. So at school, I was just always in the art room. It's like all my friends were into football and all that stuff, and I was just never into football at all. I just enjoyed the art room, the atmosphere in the art room. They had a couple of really good art teachers, and they just really encouraged me. So I was just in there all the time. And then they, recommended I did an art foundation course. And then when I got on my foundation course, I just met my tribe, really. Yeah. All the other kind of misfits and oddballs.
And where was your foundation course?
Oldham College of Technology.
Is it still around today, or is it compiled into something else?
I think it's probably there in some form or another. But I wanted to go to Rochdale because they had much kind of, I don't know, it just seemed... Yeah, Rochdale Tech was maybe a more modern building. And I went to... And because of where we lived, I had to go to Oldham. And it was almost like... This has happened a couple of times, you know, where I've kind of been forced to go down a route that I didn't want to go down. Mm-hmm. So I went to Oldham and it was brilliant. I had an amazing time. I had, like, a really great group of friends, one of whom I saw a couple of weeks ago. He came down to London, Johnny, and we just spent the day reminiscing. It was amazing.
I was going to say, it's interesting when you do find your tribe or other designers that you kind of admire. Because I always think it's interesting when you're at college, you do that thing of cluster around same people, kind of who you admire as creators, and it's lovely actually getting back in contact with them, or just seeing them and seeing they're doing well as well. You know, it kind of makes it all worthwhile. How many odd years ago that was?
Yeah, well, we worked out it's about 30 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
God. And then when you were at college, obviously the typography, you know, your work is steeped in that kind of typographic beauty. Was that where you sort of first dabbled in it, or was there someone at the uni that was that, oh, this, you should have a look at this, or what was that spark when you went, oh God, just a bit of type could really work?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, I always thought typography was really hard, and especially in those days, you know, it's like pre-digital, so you know, it's like hand, kind of like setting type and sending it off to the typesetter. There's a lot of numbers involved, and it seemed like maths to me. So I kind of tried to avoid that as much as possible. So I was kind of photocopying the letter set catalogue and enlarging the type and cutting it out, and you know, just going for big type on the page in the middle, occupying the space, hand spaced and stuck down with Pritt stick. So that's pretty much what I do now, really.
Yeah. And do you have any of your early work? Have you ever kept it and looked back? It's quite interesting when you look back at your college photo. You're like, sometimes a bit of a eureka moment. Sometimes it's about, how the hell did I get away with that kind of thing? Yeah.
Well, I think just going back a bit, like after I did my foundation at Oldham, I went to Leeds Polytechnic to do graphic design. I really wanted to go to Preston, but I didn't get a place there. So I had to go to Leeds. So it's another one of these kind of junctions in the road where I was kind of forced to go to this other place that turned out to be perfect for me. So I think when I was there, there was a big kind of culture in Leeds of, you know, found objects and collage and 3D objects and stuff. So I was doing kind of sculpture really when I was at Leeds. Lots of kind of I built a kind of object, a wardrobe with an umbrella on the top of it, and took it up to the moors and set it on fire as a kind of a ritualistic thing. There's lots of that kind of stuff going on, quite esoteric stuff. And then they suggested I apply to the Royal College, so I went down just with a portfolio of kind of Kirchwitter's style collages, bit of Robert Rauschenberg influence as well. So I kind of got to the Royal College, and Margaret Calvert was running the course.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, the kind of foremost typographer, Alan Kitching, was teaching typography as well.
And were you aware of who these people are when you applied? Or was it only when you look back, you're like, oh God.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Right, exactly. Brilliant.
So I was still kind of finding my feet really, and I was still kind of using a lot of letter set and kind of handset type and things. And it was, I kind of just found my way into typography quite sort of naturally, really. It was just always something, I always kind of wanted to say something with the work, and, you know, words is the best way of doing that. And kind of, you know, spelling out a sentence or a single word. And I think it was just that I suppose being surrounded by other graphic designers. So Jonathan Barnbrook was in the year above me. Andy Squeal and Nige from Graphic Thought Facility were in the year above. Matthias from Paris was in my year, and Damon and Stephen from Fuel were in the year below.
Oh wow!
So it was like, we were just like this generation, and I suppose a couple of years previous to that were Why Nots. So they'd left around the same time. So I don't know. It's just like,
yeah. So what year would that be? Was that sort of?
I was there from 89 to 91.
Okay, so that was quite a groundbreaking year, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That kind of.
Yeah, there's all that. I suppose Tomato were doing their stuff as well. Yeah, lots. Yeah, it's all that kind of, I suppose, mid to early 90s. Yeah, lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, I think that probably the technology back there. I'm trying to think about it. Technology then was kicking in, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was still resisting. I was still going, there's nothing, that you can do on a computer that you can't do on a photocopier.
Yeah.
So I was kind of sticking to the photocopy vibe still. It was still until much later when I got an iMac, when the first sort of clear, transparent iMacs came out.
Oh, what, one of those blueberry ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought it was the bee's knees when I got that.
Yeah, with a little CD in the front and the twin speakers. Yeah, they were quite amazing, weren't they? When they first came out, and then you look at how it's all moved on. And I suppose when you're at uni, college, or even school, I think, has there been any advice that you've kind of stuck to, that a tutor or even a fellow student designer might have said to you, that you refer back to today, going, actually, that?
Yeah. John Ross, who led the course at Leeds, he was this charismatic course leader. He used to kind of stride around in his hobnail boots and his corduroy trousers and with braces. And he was just like, he kind of like led the course seemingly without compromise. You could, if you were into doing something, he'd kind of back you. His thing was just kind of getting people to live up to their potential, I think. And if you were into it, he'd back you all the way. So we used to have tutorials in the pub around the corner from college. If you needed to speak to the tutors, you just go around to the Fenton and buy them a pint.
Is it still there, is it?
Yeah, it's still there.
Really?
Yeah. So, I think last time I went up to Leeds, I popped in. It's exactly the same.
Oh, great.
So it was when I'd applied to Royal College and got a place. And I think it was like the sort of like end of year party or something like that. Some kind of social gathering, and, we'd all had a few beers. And he just put his arm around me and said, "Get down to London and fuck them. Fuck the lot of them." And it's just that, because, he'd been down in London working as an illustrator and stuff, and he'd stuck it for a few years and then went back north afterwards, I think. And I think, there's that kind of real antagonistic. It's like, just get down there. Don't let people tell you what to do, just like get on and do it. And, it was just, I always kind of think about that, really. And just that, like, if you want to do it, you can do it, and you've just got to stick at it and be persistent and just do your thing and just get on with it.
Yeah. And how many students were in your group then? Because I remember when I was at LCP, it was very much like 35, which is, I know obviously the things are getting bigger now, but I'd be interested in if that's the same kind of thing, because I think there's that connection you have with a tutor when it's smaller, and you can maybe be a little bit cheeky with them or whatever, but there's definitely that more of a connection and more of a drive to go in.
Yeah. I think at Leeds it's probably around 30 or 40 were on the year, and that was split up between graphic design, printmaking, animation, photography. So everyone was doing everything. We were where we were in the building at college. We were over 2 floors, and it was just you had kind of free access to everything, pretty much. And then when I got to Royal College, there were 12 people doing graphic design in the year, which sounds absolutely crazy now. And we we're all from fairly similar backgrounds. There are a couple of overseas students, but yeah, it was almost like I suppose, like real creative hothouse. We were there from 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning till chucking out time every day.
Wow.
And it was, that was our, it's a completely different experience to the one that students have now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But, that was our complete life. That was where we were. That's, I met my wife there and, friends who I'm still really close with now. So.
Yeah. It almost does become your life, doesn't it? That whole college thing. And I suppose it depends on the sort of student or the creative you are and you want to be as well. Because it was definitely the more you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. So that's always interesting.
Yeah, it's a basic, and that's true for everything.
And what's the best part of the project? Be it a client project or a self-initiated project. Is there a certain point when you go, that's the bit that I really enjoy? The rest of it just as admin or...
I suppose the kind of work I do now, it's pretty much like the majority of it is what you call non-client or self-initiated projects. And for me, it's just that it's kind of having that rolling flow of ideas and energy and just being on top of things and just being able to kind of let things happen in the studio when I'm working. So I just love spending, I've got a studio at home. Mm-hmm. I just love spending complete solid days in there, just like chipping away at stuff and just letting ideas develop. And, I visualize a lot of stuff and kind of generate things. And then that might develop into a print or some other kind of project. And it's just that I think what I do is just kind of think about things generally and then let things mull over in my head and just develop. And then as soon as you got that little nugget of an idea, just start to build on that and then build on it. And it's those ideas that just hang around in your head for a while.
Yeah. And
you kind of can't get rid of them. They're sort of like they nag away. They want to be born into the world. So you just have to kind of like listen to those ideas developing and be quite sensitive, I think, to how those things come out. You try not to overthink things too much. Mm-hmm. Try not to be too clever. Just kind of keep it direct and be sort of true to those initial thoughts, and let the idea kind of come out.
And because do you have a sounding board or someone you go to, like the wife or the kids, and go, what do you think about this? Or is it just like you're in your own world, you kind of know what you want? How do you know whether it's going to fly or not? Is there someone you talk to about it?
Yeah, well, Emma, my wife, she's we've been together for 30 years, so we kind of know each other inside out. But there's always that little bit like, I'm still always seeking her approval for things. It's like, what do you think about this? And sometimes she's like, I think you need to do a bit more work on that. Or it's like,
put it in a drawer.
Yeah, it's just that you need that instant connection.
Yes.
And you can tell within the first like half a second whether it's like, oh, so what is this supposed to be? What are you trying to say with this? And it's like, and then other times you just say, oh, look at that. And it's like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I've always wondered, because if you are a silo or you're by yourself, it's like that's the joy of working in studio. You bounce things off people and stuff. And if a successful individual like yourself, I've always thought, how do you judge it? What's the criteria? And is there someone like a third ear or something that listens on?
Yeah, but I think sometimes you just got to trust your instincts as well, and kind of just. I don't know, for me, a lot of it is undefinable, or I just can't identify what it is about something that makes it successful until it kind of gets out into the world and other people start seeing it. And, I just kind of make this stuff and send it out. And when people kind of grab hold of it and it kind of makes a connection with them or makes sense to them in some way, then I think that's when the work kind of fends for itself.
Yeah, I was interested in, I've been writing notes. That's how I do it. Basically, when you're talking about you documenting stuff, and that instantly took me to that XYZ project.
Yes, yeah.
Because sure, is that part of that when you're a child, always creating stuff and then finding stuff. And I thought it was an interesting project to release.
Yeah, it was so it's something I originally did it a few years ago, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. Made a small website. A couple of friends of mine, John Bland and a friend of his, programmer guy, Neil, we kind of worked on this thing together. And the intention was always to kind of build on it, but it was just one of those things like we launched it, it had a good reception, and then for some reason it disappeared off the internet. You know, it was, I don't know, it was on some kind of server that we didn't pay or something, so it disappeared.
So it was a fleeting collection of...
Yeah.
How is it not there anymore?
No, well, yeah, it's probably somewhere. So then it was like, well, I kind of want to remake it, but this is a few years later. It was like 2 years ago. It was like I want to make it bigger and better, and so with Neil Fletcher, we kind of developed this site together, and through all lockdown, I was kind of like going through all my archive stuff, sorting out all printed material and posters, and kind of just making sense of all that stuff. I think it was like the ideal opportunity, really.
And the idea is that it's all open source that people can use. Is that the general thing of stuff you found? People can use and share and create their own.
Yeah. So I think I didn't have any. I just thought it might be an interesting thing for people to look at and to see where my inspiration comes from and the kind of stuff. I've collected it for years, and it's kind of, well, if it's not out there for people to look at, it's it should be doing something. But the response has been great. And there's a couple like up in Sheffield, the graphic design course, they based a project on it. Okay. So I'm going to brief the students on that, and then they're going to develop ideas from the archive. And I've been speaking to a guy in Germany who's going to run it through an AI program.
Oh wow!
So that like all the files, the complete set of stuff go through AI, and it will generate new graphics from that. So that's quite interesting.
The old to the new. The old to the new.
Yeah.
Now the other thing we do is this little quick fire round.
Yeah.
Let's just break it up. Bit of fun. Okay, so I've got a few. You probably guess what's going to come. So, sans serif or serif?
Sans serif.
Screen printing or letterpress?
Oh, screen print.
I thought you'd go for letterpress. I'm interested in that one. Black and white or colour?
Black and white.
Upper or lowercase?
Uppercase.
I kind of guessed all of these ones. Radio 4, Radio 6.
Oh. Can I have 4 extra?
Oh, I never listened to that one.
Yeah, it's weird. It just plays like old editions of Dad's Army. Constant and kind of Agatha Christie stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
Oh, okay. You can have that one. I've never heard of that one. Well, I've seen it, but I've never dialed into it. Maybe I need to dial into it. Brilliant. All right. So thanks for that. So then the next sort of stage is, when we do our work, we've got this whole create great thing. It's something that sort of manifested itself pretty much during the lockdown, really. And it's that thing of making sure your work is as good as it can be, stepping back and really looking at it, And I'll be interested in, apart from your wife and stuff, what's the driver that gets you up and makes you just want to carry on doing what you're doing? There must be something that is put in you.
Yeah, well, it's me. It's the work that I make is so inextricably linked with who I am, my sense of self, and my it's just, I just love it. I still love it. It's like I'm still excited by looking at letter forms.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I don't know. It's just I'm just really into it, and it's it's still when I'm in the studio listening to music and working on a new print, I'm still super enthusiastic and kind of energized by it. I think like earlier on this year, like the first few months of this year, I'd completely run out of steam. I was just like, oh, why am I doing this? What's it mean? I was kind of like, I was a bit of a lull. I'd kind of just, I don't know, I think it was just trying to figure out where I stood in 2022 and where my work stood and what was it for and all that. And I think it was like, I had a bit of a kind of, I don't know, I just sort of, I suppose I had a bit of a break for a couple of months, wasn't fussed to do anything. And it was just like, oh, is that it? Is it all over now? Is it like, is that it now? Do I have to think of something else to do? And it was like, well, there's that archive project that I've been mucking around with. Why don't I just kind of like get focused on that and sort of develop that? So it's kind of going back to my initial inspiration. I think, it's always good to kind of go back to that first thing that got you excited about it and just kind of like building that momentum again and building that excitement about stuff. But yeah, it's quite a fragile thing, isn't it? It's like, it's you can't be like super enthusiastic about stuff all the time. You have to kind of.
Well, yeah, there's always that. I'm sure I speak for many of people, that kind of sort of self-looking kind of like, what am I doing? Is it any good? Or am I just moving stuff around until something happens?
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's part of the creative process.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the creative mindset. We're all, we've all got slight, I don't know, self-doubt, and we need constant reassurance. And I think that's something I was missing because, I wasn't going out giving talks about my work. I wasn't kind of, there weren't that many private views going on. I didn't get to mix with other creatives, and I think I really missed that aspect of the world that we're in. That kind of, bumping into people and saying, oh, what have you been doing, what you're up to, and it's kind of just all that general stuff that when you are a little bit, I don't know, just gone down a weird little rabbit hole of, feeling a little bit disconnected from things. But yeah, it's kind of,
Yeah, I think that kind of design community thing is really interesting. Even just going down to the local Bricklayers Arms down there, which has been serving many a pints to many designers over the years, for so long, just seeing, and you just stand there and you go, these are all creative types. It's quite nice, that kind of thing. And then some people might come over and talk to you and stuff, or seen something, and it's that open dialogue. And I think that's really, that's why I was interested in that kind of single person, single creative doing it, and those influences and other opinions and stuff. Maybe not having that to hand could lead to something.
Yeah, because but sort of like pre-pandemic, I was up in London, once a week pretty much,
right? And
that would always end up in some kind of social context down the pub, great. And it's kind of like you'd have that, and then the rest of the time, I'd be in the studio just like working solid, and you just have a nice balance of things. So I think when one of those things was taken away, it was a bit like, oh God, what's it all mean?
Yeah. What am I doing? Why am I just putting type on paper?
Yeah.
The other thing is the sense of scale, because obviously, we've got a few posters up in the studio, got a few collections at home, I've got a few books. Obviously, we can touch on the books, but I'd like to talk about the idea of scale and that amazing project you did, which is You and Me, Me and You, the huge hand-painted type.
Yeah.
This is like from what it's okay going from an A1, but then it's like, how do you even plan that mentally, and actually go up and do it, and the time period over you have to do it?
That started off. Claire Wellington, who's up in Leeds, she runs lots of amazing projects, like kind of just all sorts of stuff really. So she's a great curator and person who makes things happen. So I've known her for a while. So this is back in 2018, I think,
Right,
when it was first mooted.
Okay.
So she sent me a photograph of the building in Leeds, and she said, we've kind of got outline planning permission to do a mural on here.
Wow.
Could you come up with some ideas? So I went up to have a look at it, took some photos, and then came back. And then, so that design, Me and You, You and Me, I've kind of used that. I've used the You and Me and You thing a couple of times previously, and it just seemed kind of appropriate for this one. So I kind of outlined the design. So that was the main one I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I kind of had another couple of ideas, just as for like options, but with the instructions were that was the one I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent it up, and it was like, yeah, it's great. Let's do that.
Wow.
So the initial design was black type on a white background, and Laura said, "Oh, it's going to be easier if we do white type on a black background."
Okay, why is that now?
I think it was. I think it's how the guys were going to paint it. So I was like, okay, yeah, that'll look good.
And is that the Bread Collective?
Bread Collective. Yeah.
Bread
so
Collective.
so anyway, this was 2018, 2019. So we were kind of like planning to. We had to kind of wait for a while for it to go through planning permission and all that kind of stuff. So that took a while, and then I think they were going to put scaffolding up on the building, and that was delayed a little bit. And then the pandemic hit, and everything was put on hold.
Right.
And I was like, well, it probably won't ever happen now. This,
Yeah.
So that kind of went on for a while, and then it was during 2020, towards the end. I think it was like September, October. Laura said, "Oh, they're going to go ahead and do it now." So the scaffolding went up because they were doing work on the building, and then I went up. I think it was like in November. Like not the best time of year to paint a mural in the north of England. Yeah, it's a bit
wet and cold.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the guys from Bread painted it. So I think I just gave them. We had like a really accurate scale drawing of the building, and I drew the type. Well, put the type on there, and then they plotted it, and kind of hand painted the design.
Wow. Did you get up on the scaffolding and have a go?
Yeah, I went right to the top of the.
Did you? Yeah. I'd start at the bottom and just stay there.
Went to the top. I did one brush stroke, just so I could say that I had my art
It's got your footprint on there.
Yeah. So then the scaffolding came down just before Christmas, and then it was January 21.
Right.
That's when it was revealed.
And was the reception good? I mean, it looks amazing just looking at it now, and I put it on Visuelle. It looks so good. That.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh my, it's kind of, well, you never know how things are going to fit or how things are going to land with people. But we had a really amazing film made about it. This guy Ben directed this gorgeous film that sort of documents the process, talks to everybody involved, and by the power of the drone shot, you could see it in Leeds. So yeah, it's amazing.
And how close is it to the centre?
It's just like 5 minutes from the station.
Oh wow!
Just on the canal.
I'll have a look for that next time I'm up in Leeds.
Yeah.
And tell me about, so obviously you've had some books printed as well. You've had the small book, and then you did a book with volume, which I've got on the bookshelf over there, which I suppose was a little bit of a printed version of the XYZ from what I can remember.
Yeah. It's drawing from the same sources. So that so that was a friend of mine, Darren Wall, who kind of works for Thames and Hudson and runs the volume imprint.
Right.
So that's kind of crowdfunding model.
Yes.
So yeah, he just got in touch and said, "Do you want to sort of develop a book idea?" So I kind of like roughly outlined the the idea, and then it was like, well, let's build a crowdfunder around it. So that was really exciting and interesting. And that, the people at Thames and Hudson really, they were just kind of letting us get on with it, really.
Great. No, it's quite interesting, all that crowdfunding kind of thing. I think sort of Unit Editions did a lot of that, didn't they?
Yeah.
When they're doing their stuff, and it's nice that you can actually back something and see it actually come to life, which is brilliant. Yeah. And then you did the smaller book, because I remember, during lockdown, that's it. Work hard and be nice to people. You did the really small yellow book.
Yeah. So that came. So that was a book that I did for Penguin. It was called Make It Now. That was a hardback, and then they wanted to do a paperback version of it. So instead of just repeating the design, I had the great idea of rewriting it and kind of redesigning the whole thing from scratch as a kind of small little A6 paperback. So so it's kind of like it was a development of the original book, even though it was supposed to be a paperback version. So it was cool.
And I suppose it's always the question, print versus digital versus print. Something just beautiful about your printed stuff. We've got the posters at the back. Would you ever do like an NFT thing, or been approached already?
Yeah, loads. Yeah, when it was that first wave where everyone was doing it, and I just said, "What is an NFT?"
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. You're doing it. What is it?
Yeah. What is this thing, NFT? And nobody could kind of explain so that I could understand it. It's.
You're not doing it.
No, from me.
You're not going to set out.
I don't know. I think the bubble's kind of burst on.
I think you either own something or you don't.
Yeah.
Just take a screen grab of it and go.
Yeah.
Well, I don't own it, but I could print it off and pretend I own it. What's the value in anyway?
Well, it's pure commodity, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it is. It is. And we've spoken about some advice and stuff. What advice would you give to aspiring designers, or even older people like myself who've been in the industry? Is there something that you could pass on to someone else that could be of interest?
I think it's when I was going through my, slightly weird period earlier on this year, I spoke to like a few people within the industry who I kind of knew, and we just had like kind of chats, honest chats with each other. And I think the stuff that kind of came out of that was like, well, just keep doing your stuff. And if you do it with kind of passion and commitment, and you want to get it out there and you want to get it in front of people, just kind of make things happen. I think maybe that's something you constantly need to do. You need to kind of like feed that engine of creativity and kind of be constantly, whether it's like going to see exhibitions or reading, or it's kind of looking at stuff that kind of feeds that creativity and takes you to the next place. The world's going through some like crazy changes at the moment, and it's like, how do we fit into that, and how does our work stay relevant? And so I think it's just keeping going and keeping doing your thing.
Just believe in it.
Yeah.
And where do you get your statements from? What makes you go, I'm going to put this down on print? Ask more questions. And all that, which is great. Which is it's like, I suppose the question really broader is, where do you get your ideas from? What makes you think actually? It's that, and that's what's going to be printed.
I think it's just a process of just letting those things develop in my head constantly, or I kind of write things down. I sometimes just send an email to myself of something I've thought of. You just wake up with this little thought, like just a couple of words in your head, and just, does that make sense, or what does it mean to me, and what's it going to mean to other people, and is it going to be something that kind of adds up to everything else that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, like all the work I do is all part of like one, you know, one big project, one big body of work, and it's like, how does all that stuff kind of fit in with each other?
Yeah, I'm getting hungry. I need a biscuit. I need a biscuit. And
that's a good phrase, actually.
Well, I need a biscuit.
I need a biscuit. Yeah. Could be the next print.
You heard it here. 10% commission on every sale, please. We're just sort of stepping back to that typography and the beautiful type. What is the typeface? Is it a typeface you've found and like you've gone, right, that's it. I'm going to keep it under lock and key.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's really nice, and it's like, or has it? Would you even think about digitizing it? Would it become like a Burrill bold or something like that?
Yeah.
Would you ever take something recreative with Foundry?
Yeah. So, but I use primarily 3 typefaces. There's a kind of serif condensed, sans bold. No, sans serif condensed, sans bold, and then a kind of slab serif, and then they're all from Adams of Rye,
right?
The letterpress workshop near where I live. And
I presume they're fonts from a different foundry, or they're not their own crafted fonts?
No. I think a couple of them are Stevenson Blake. Okay, so you know, from 1920s, 1930s, and then they're just kind of. They've become my voice, you know.
Exactly.
They become, you know. I kind of now visually own those typefaces, you know, within my work, because I kind of like looking through old work. I was always searching for that voice, and I did, after Work Hard and Be Nice to People, I did another couple of posters, and it was almost like I'd found my voice in using those typefaces.
And that Work Hard and Be Nice to People was
a
successful, let's say, successful poster for you.
Yeah.
That was probably the first encounter everyone had of Anthony Burrill.
Yeah. That was 2004.
Wow.
So still going strong.
Still reprinting it. Yeah. Do you know how many prints you've done of it? Have you actually catalogued that? I've done 2,000 or something like that.
Yeah. It's many thousands.
Wow.
Many.
And that's done with is it Rye? The guys at Rye?
Yeah. So I still it's like the original ones were letterpress, and I still print those letterpress. That's pretty specific to that one piece of work, really.
Right.
That it's part of the story of it. But I do kind of screen print versions of it as well, at a slightly larger size.
I'm just looking at your website here with that amazing big screen saying, I can't say what it is.
I like it. Is it? I like it. What is it?
I like it. I mean, that's the amount of times we've heard that in a studio or a client meeting.
Yeah.
I think that's I love
it. It's just like, I really like that. It's what is it? It's like, you know, it's just that. I think it's that. You know, it's that kind of curiosity thing, and like seeing something that you really like, but you don't know what it is, but you have a reaction to it, and it's just that there's a connection there that is, you know, that's instant. You know, I mentioned that thing before of like looking at some, you know, within the first half second, you know, whether it's going to work or not, or you know.
Yeah, because you've done prints as well for charities, which is interesting. I don't think I've seen that before, and I always thought that was really nice. Was it Stop the War?
I've done tons of stuff, and it's kind of it's like Oxfam, War Child, Amnesty.
And is that something they get in contact with you, or do you go, actually, I feel really passionate about this, I'll contact them and see if they're up for it?
Yeah. So I think it is with. On lots of occasions, like over the past few years, there's been, you know, specific moments, and you know, I've got that kind of profile now where it's, you know, I can sort of make a comment, or you know, allow people to be involved in something. So when it was the, you know, around the time of the George Floyd murder and you know, all that stuff, it's like. I kind of need to say something about this. I can't just not say anything. Yeah. You know, I need to kind of put some kind of comment out there, and I was like, well, but I don't want to just be just saying, I don't know, you just want to say something and it be a genuine thing. And it's like, I've got this platform, I can put work out there and raise awareness, raise money. So I worked with a charity called Black Curriculum who work with schools to talk about Black history, particularly British Black history. So I made the print ask more questions, and the response to that was incredible. We sold a lot of those, and Steve, my amazing screen printer, got involved and printed lots of copies. And it was during lockdown, so we were all at home. So my kids were kind of helping put posters in tubes and stuff like that. And you kind of felt it was a worthwhile thing to do, and we were doing it in that moment. And so it's kind of after that I've been doing making prints for War Child and Red Cross and stuff like that. And it's I don't know, it's just like part of what I do now. And it's I kind of feel like that's the kind of stuff I should be doing.
Well, I think as you say, and I think it goes back to your sort of visual voice, the type and everything really does reflect, and it's a brilliant medium to put it on. Would you consider digital stuff, like digital with sound, some of your, so like an installation? I'm just thinking you could also almost imagine some of your, ask more questions, like a little bit of ambient noise, but would you ever consider taking it into like a digital platform? Yeah.
I think I'm obsessed with music, and kind of that's something that I think I'm going to do now. no, you've mentioned it. I was like, because to kind of create, but I've done kind of music stuff in the past, made music, and basically been in the same room as someone who's making music, and just adding to the vibe. And then I did, made a record with Eric Kessel's a couple of years ago of bird sound. Like aeroplanes and birds mixed together. So that was with my friend Malcolm Goldie, who's an amazing sound designer. So he put the whole thing together. Again, it's like more of a sort of conceptual sound piece. But we pressed that as a vinyl record.
Oh wow!
Yeah, a single-sided 12-inch.
Is it still available? Is it?
Oh yeah, we've got
a box full of them at home.
Yeah, the attic's full of them.
I'll put a request in for one of those. And so what next? You've been doing this for a good couple of years. You've built a great career out of it. What next? What's the next stage? Yeah, well, that's the big question, and I think that's a question that I've been asking myself. It's like our kids have left home now. They're both back up in London, so it's just my wife and myself and our dog at home. And it's almost like, okay, well, you've got all this time now, extra time to do the things you want to do and make new things. So I've got an exhibition in November. Great.
Jealous Gallery. So I'm kind of working towards that. So that's going to be my next kind of statement about where I am in the world.
And that's in November?
Yeah, so I think the opening's like on the 2nd of November.
Is it the one down here?
Yeah, just at the end of Curtain Road. So I'll let you know about that.
I hope I get an invite to the private view.
Definitely, VIP.
That'd be great. Brilliant. So I think on that note, thank you. It's been brilliant actually talking face to face with someone. I wasn't sure honestly how it's going to. How do I do it really face to face? We've never done it before, but it's good. So
I think it's just good being in the same room as another living, breathing human, isn't it?
Yeah, the whites of the eyes. The whites of the eyes. No, honestly, thank you, Anthony, for agreeing to do that. And I know coming into London is a special treat, especially for yourself and definitely for me for coming in and everything else.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Cool. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I look forward to you coming back for the next one. If you'd like to find out more about OPX and how we create great, then check out OPX Studio. And if you'd like some daily inspiration in your life, then do visit visuelle.co.uk. And if you enjoyed this episode, head over to Spotify and give us a follow.